for his work on Atlanta. This guy is in so many movies coming up, including If Beale Street Could Talk. He terrifies me in this movie. Please welcome Brian Tyree Henry. Actress since Girl Fight. She is always one of my favorite things from every movie. You probably didn't know she was going to be here tonight. Well, surprise! She'll also be seen later this year in Alita Battle Angel. Please welcome Michelle Rodriguez.
Hi, guys. Thank you, that's sweet.
Finally, an actress, it would be hard to pick a favorite role. We're talking performances in Doubt, Fences, How to Get Away with Murder. She's a Tony, Emmy, Academy Award-winning actress. We need her to make an album so she can win a Grammy. Viola Davis. I just have to know, actually, what's it like to be Viola Davis? Does that happen everywhere you go? Like, you walk into Starbucks and you get a standing ovation?
Yeah, my daughter gives me a standing ovation every morning in her mind.
Well, so deserved. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is an audience of SAG actors, so I actually how did you get your SAG card? What was the first job that brought that magical piece of paper?
Forgive me, because I did not know so many people were going to be here, so I'm like, oh God. I think I got my SAG card doing an old episode of Law & Order, of course. And I was like a security parking lot enforcer, and I literally had to talk about the tires and the camera, and that was it. It was like 3 lines. I'd never been prouder.
Michelle?
My first gig was Girl Fight.
Mine was the nurse in Substance of Fire. I played opposite Timothy Hutton. And I had to borrow money from my sister to pay for the SAG dues because I didn't get paid enough money. But
amazing. Hopefully you're all paid up because you get screeners now.
Yeah, but we don't have DVD players now, so I'm like, well, now I've got all these screeners and
So I want to start at the beginning with this movie. It comes to us from the great director Steve McQueen. And he co-wrote the script with Gillian Flynn, who is Gillian,
A Chicago native.
For each of you, how did the story find its way to you, and what attracted you to the roles or the project? I don't know if it's a combination of both, or I don't think you say no to Steve McQueen. Although, Michelle, I heard you did say no.
Oh, no, wait. Hey, guys, let's get this straight. I didn't become an actress till, like, maybe this movie. No, seriously, I was always an activist. I was on screen trying to be, the empowerment that I didn't see anybody else doing.
Yeah.
So, so when I said no to him, I'm like, what? She relied on her husband for money? That's bullshit. So yeah, pardon my ignorance. I didn't know I was talking to the great McQueen. I met him and then immediately I'm like, yes.
Well, so you originally said no before you actually talked to him?
Before I actually talked to him,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. Brian, what about for you?
For me, how did it happen? I think that I went in first for the part of Tim, and I was like, well, I'm not going to get that. I was like, oh, Daniel Kaluuya, okay, cool, I'll show up. And then I think that Francine Maisley was like, why don't you come in and try Jamal? And I was like, well, wait, doesn't this dude have a scene with Viola? Does that mean like, and he's like, I don't know. I was like, and I'm supposed to like get in her face, and I'm supposed to do, all right, I'll try, okay, cool, we'll see. And so, you know, we did a reading together. He even flew me to Chicago to do a table read with you, and we sat down, and it was unbelievable. Steve McQueen is literally a master of scene work, a master of characters, a master of space and time. So you had no choice but to sit there and give it your all. And also, Viola done flown up here to Chicago, so you need to sit down and make sure that you, and I mean, I don't know, there was an abandon of, there was just something about this character that allowed me to play and allowed me to just sink my teeth in, and Steve really let me go where I wanted to with it. So yeah, so after that, you know, I was definitely on board when I got the call. I was like, absolutely. I was like, I will wear a shirt and tie in the blazing Chicago summer heat, and we will do this in a church like next to the Rothschild Liquors, and we will crush this, and it'll be great. So, and then when I found out that Daniel was definitely my brother, I was like, okay, well, yeah, we're gonna do this. So it was really cool that he spent the time to really talk to me and really guide me through it, and you know, he just really, I don't know, he kept calling me. And I mean, it's one of the best compliments ever. And I was just like, do you really? He was like, I feel like you're like you know, like the next Philip Seymour Hoffman. And I was like, really? I was like, that's fantastic. Of course I'll do your movie, Steve McQueen. Of course I'll do it. So, yeah.
That is such a great comparison. I absolutely see that.
It's
Yeah.
crazy, yeah.
Compare me to Marlon Brando.
I know what he meant by that.
I'm sorry, you're better than Marlon Brando.
Viola Davis.
So how did it find its way to you?
He came to my house and to offer me the role, and he took a Uber, and I want to say, you could have called me, and I would have said yes. But I remember that was a time in the script when there was a total flat-out sex scene with my husband. When I say sex scene, I mean butt naked. And
Liam Neeson, ladies and gentlemen. I mean,
well, I didn't know who it was at that time. All I know it was sex scene. And so I remember the first meeting. I said, well, for number one, yes, I will do it. But then my big thing with heist movies is, why do people commit heists, Steve? Seemingly normal people, out of the blue, commit heists. I said, that's my only issue. I said, even if you don't fix it, I'll do it anyway. But that was, but you know, I had to sound like a slick actress. So that was my big issue. But then I read the sex scene and I was like, oh my God, I can't do that. And we went out to sushi.
I mean, of all things.
And I love a free meal, by the way. I mean, I was eating my ass off. I was drawing that conversation out, and I finally said, now, Steve, here's the thing. I mean, I know you're known for your sex scenes, but I'm not showing my ass. I can't. And I said, you know, it's not necessary. And, but it wasn't a big dramatic story. I was just happy to play a woman. You know, I feel like with me, with most actresses of color, I feel that you're always in the context of being didactic. You're always in the context of a civil rights movie. You're always making a statement. I just wanted to play a woman. And, you know, that's it. So I said,
Did it beautifully.
Thank you, Michelle. But, yeah, that's it. And, you know, yeah, Kaluuya. The sushi was very good.
I'm actually curious, was the role of Veronica, or for that matter, Linda, were they written specifically for people of color, or was it colorblind casting?
It was not written for anyone of color. I mean, I think they were considering Sandra Bullock, all
The
kinds
show
of...
was based off of British women, right? White British.
Yeah, it was based on British, women. So they were considering, you know, actresses like that. And, you know, what's interesting, that, you know, actors will understand this. I find that whatever a Caucasian actress is considered for a role, I'm probably more attracted to it because it's going to be better written.
Of course.
And that's the unspoken truth. It's going to be better written, you know, even if it's small. It's just going to be written with the idea and the context that it's a woman. So who is the woman? Well, her name is Veronica. Well, who is she married to? Well, she's married to this man. And da-da-da-da-da-da. And so I leaned in. I did. I leaned in.
I mean, and there's obviously, we know that there is, you know, a dearth of great roles for women in Hollywood. So what's it like to be on a set?
Sure.
Elect. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
At first I was excited, but then I was like, wait, no, is it?
I'm sorry, I'm showing off. I got a thesaurus today. So there's a lack of you know, really great roles to go around. But here you have 4. And they're the title characters, and it's, you know, they're all the leads, and it's all women. I mean, did this feel like a different set to you? Was there a different atmosphere? Really?
Oh my God, I swear, I haven't, you know, personally, I'm used to working with dudes everywhere. Like it's a sausage factory in my set, you know? It's like, you know, the smell of protein shake farts and, you know, and like testosterone everywhere, egos walking down the path, and like to be in a trailer every moment with nothing but women was an first experience in my life to be in a trailer of just women, and the environment was speak without speaking. It was like I could just give a look, and and she would know what I'm talking about, or Elizabeth would know what I mean, and Cynthia would. It just was so much smoother, and the communication channels were open. It just felt really like everyone, but it also has a lot to do with Steve.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he creates an environment for expression, and he respects you, and he sees you.
Big time.
And so, like, you know, those elements put together, and then being surrounded by matriarchs, I was like, I'm in heaven. I can't believe it.
Well, you gotta say, that first meeting at the restaurant,
We were
went to
so loud.
a 6-star restaurant.
Especially me and her, we get so ghetto over together.
No, but at some point, did you think?
I thought we were gonna get kicked out, but like we were with McQueen, we can't get kicked out. It was awesome. It's like we had a free pass to just be ourselves.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
I also feel, and I think that this is changing, but in Hollywood, there was a long time, there was this prevailing wisdom that characters had to be nice or likable. And how exciting is it to be seeing these roles that are so complicated? I like all these characters, maybe not you as much.
Nice. I'm out, guys.
I thought you were amazing, man. You killed it. You killed it.
But do you think we're seeing a shift that, you know, women can, you know, have bruises and problems and flaws?
Can I answer this one? You know, I honestly feel like, you know, people forget how recent women were allowed to put their name on a book. People forget that when they walk through a museum, 85% of what they see was made by a man. That 90% of somewhat of our history was written by men. And, you know, I think that we're living in a very special time where women have the ability to discover themselves, and it's new. So you need to leave room for mistakes and leave room for genius and open your heart to discover something that maybe you didn't know about yourself as a woman, because I'm discovering it as I'm moving along. I started alpha, and now I'm moving towards my feminine side. It's different for me, you know? I was always like, manifest my own shit.
Over tables and stuff.
I'll die for what I believe in. Come on, bring it. And now, you know, I'm softening and I'm starting to discover what that is, and I think Hollywood is too.
Brian, I've mentioned several times how terrifying you are, which really is a testament to your performance. But when you knew you had to do that scene with Viola, I mean, was that intimidating? This is America's sweetheart.
I I'd be more scared of Viola than him. Just saying.
The funny part, oh man, the funny part was it was like, okay, Manny goes to the door, knocks on the door, says that he's here for the ward, put your foot in the door, go in the door, and there's a dog. I was like, oh, there's a dog. So Steve was like, what if you just like, I'm like, got it. And I didn't know that throughout the movie because I hadn't, I read the script, I knew that she had this dog, but I didn't know. So I'm like, oh man, there are two fears that I have ever filming anything, kids and pets. So it's like, oh man, they can smell my fear a mile away, they know. And I'm always with kids and pets, they smell it. So all I knew is at the end of the day, her husband took my money. If I don't get my money, I do not win and I'm going to win, but your husband took my money. And then there were all these different things that were unfolding as I was going through, because coming from Atlanta is different. Like, Alfred, the first episode I shoot somebody is cool. Like, I got it, I'm a drug dealer, like, cool. But this one, I was like, oh, he's a politician, and he's like, there was another dichotomy to this guy, and at the same time, if anyone hears her scream, I'm out. So I had to divide the scene in such a way, because I'm also like, one, you have to let her know that you are really serious. And I didn't know what I was going to do with this dog. I had no idea. I was just like, okay, I'm going to walk around with this dog. I'm going to lift this dog. The dog out of my hand. Oh, this your penthouse? Oh, that's great. Cool, this your penthouse? Okay. And I know that my duty is to get to her that I want my money by any means necessary. It is not an easy task, ladies and gentlemen, when you've watched and grown up and written notes and revered this amazing, amazing, amazing. It's amazing answer. But you take a moment, there'll be sometimes I was when he yelled, because I was like, cool, now I go to the bathroom, and I just put my arms on the sink, I was like, you got this, Brian, you got this. Viola is ready to receive, she is moving with you. That's what scene partners do, she is moving with you, she is moving with you. You have to get in her face, and I just remember there was one take that she started crying, I was like, Brian, get your money, Brian. But it for me is going to be hands down one of the best moments in my heart, in my soul, in my mind, because when you get those scene partners, that's what it is, it's a partnership, it's a partnership.
Yeah, you were scary as fuck. That's what I'm saying, in that scene.
But like,
sure.
I don't know, Viola, like, I just, it's like, I was basically like, okay, what would Viola do in this moment? I was like, no, she wants, it's me up here, so it was just, I don't know, it was a masterclass, this whole movie. I mean, even though it's with Colin Farrell, I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, okay, we don't like each other, great, let me keep my feet up here. It was just, but it was a place to play, like, that's the great thing. It was very much, because I grew up on the stage, the theater is my thing, as much as you, and thank you. And there's just a certain way, there's a certain kind of give and take, there's a certain kind of environmental understanding that you do. But at the same time, I realized that on film, it's our job to live these lives of these people. It's their jobs to capture it. So it's like you have to move through that life however it needs to be moved through. But your partner is right in front of you. Don't lead your partner astray. So I'm doing all of that, remembering that I still got a dog in my head. but I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, it was such an honor. And I'm telling you, like, to sit back and watch these women work, like, I say this all the time, sorry if I'm long-winded, but I owe all of my success to women because I studied women more than I did men when I would look at, television and film and things like that, because a woman has the hardest job in the world when it comes to, I feel like, when it comes to conveying emotion, holding back rage. There's all these rules and all these things, but there's an underlying way that this will send you to a female's performance that if you're really smart, you can see the way to move through it. Because most men are like, no, that's my way. I like to do it like this. I puff my chest out. I put my arms up like this. I do that. But with women, there's a craft that I've never seen before. So I really try to go into the feminine side of my acting, honestly, to explore what the emotional side can be, because it's not always what you say. It's not always what you say. It's sometimes what you do. The action speaks way louder than any word can. So that's where I try to go. Thank you. Oh, God.
By the way, I spent the entire movie worried about that dog, and I'm so oh my gosh, I was like, you can kill Robert Duvall, but do not touch Duvall.
Wasn't he great? Duvall, I mean, my God.
So for each of you, what ended up being... well, the dog's not here, so... What ended up being the most challenging part of making the movie, either in the shoot itself or if there's a particular scene that you found challenging? I mean, your characters, this is a fun, I know that's a weird word, but it's a fun heist movie. Your characters are going through a lot of grief.
Yeah. We always look to you when it comes to that. It's like you carry so many emotions like simmering underneath.
But you know,
When you let that sucker out, it's like, what?
Yeah. See my comedy next year, Troop Zero. Amazon. But no, the hardest part for me was the love scene.
Really? Even though it was toned down?
Yeah. You know, there was something, you know, here's the thing. I always try not to say something like this, but I just gotta say it because you asked me. Sometimes the most simple is the novel, okay? And what I mean by that is, when's the last time you saw a 53-year-old dark-skinned woman with her natural hair rolling around in bed with a white man that is considered to be Hollywood's home? You know, and I know I say that and people are like, oh, she's saying it again, but I'm actually asking you an honest question. Even of all the movies that are being done this year,
Never seen it before.
you will not see it on the screen. Think about last year, the year before, the year before that. When, so, and it's conveying love. He's not raping me. You know what I'm saying? It's not meant to make any, we're just a couple. That's all we are. And so, when I saw that scene, we had to talk about my hair with Steve McQueen. I said, well, Steve, I think that I should start with straight hair. And then I think that, you know, maybe I'll take my wig off. I'll take it off. And then maybe I can have a short wig. And then I had about 5 wig changes. And I was in conversation with him and he kept going, yes, 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 okay, 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 yes, 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 yes. Okay, and we hung up. And then 2 seconds later he calls back, he said, Viola, why can't you just wear your natural hair? And I said, well, Steve, we can't do that. We can't do that. And he wanted to know why. I said, because we can't do that in America. I mean, if they see me rolling around with Liam Neeson, and no one's going to buy that. And he was done after that. He went from 0 to 10. He said, I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't even want to hear it. I see that woman every single time in airports and in London, in Rome, walking with her tall, handsome, Irish, British boyfriend, husband. She exists. She just hasn't been in the American cinema, and it's about time we introduce her. And then I was like, okay.
Oh,
And he hung up.
especially in Jersey and Boston, I know tons of African American yellows that with last names like McDonald.
You know, but that was the hardest part, and I have to say this because with acting is very, very vulnerable, and it is. The reason why it takes a lot of courage is because you have to go to places that aren't politically correct to play your character, and nobody talks about it. Actors get on the stage and they'll never talk about the ugliest part of themselves, the most insecure part of themselves that they had to interject into the character, because there is also a very public part of what we do. where we don't want to be judged as actors. I mean, look at, this is a SAG nominating audience, you know, this is award season. You want to say what people want to hear. But really, at the end of the day, it cost me something to have Liam Neeson hold me in a scene, you know, and while freaking Nina Simone is playing in the background. Because what I felt like is that he was loving me and adoring me. And it cost me something because I'm not usually adored on screen. No, and I'm not saying that to say, oh, whatever, because I feel adored in my life. You know, I have a great husband who's a freaking hunk. But I'm just saying that on screen, I had to, I just felt that. It cost me something to allow myself to be loved, but I used it. Because I felt like with Veronica, she's with a friggin' asshole, really. I mean, really, at the end of the day, so shit, what made her go with the asshole? Maybe she felt like, man, here's someone who's loving me in a way that I'm not owning and loving myself. So I could use it, even if you don't see it, even though I'm not blatantly saying it. But I'm saying all that to say, that was the hardest part. And I'm telling you, being in bed with Liam Neeson, you know, and with Steve McQueen coming in saying, okay, more tongue. Would you just say more tongue? Okay. I'm leaving now. Okay.
It's a perfect interpretation.
Yeah, so anyway, that's
I thought your guys' chemistry was off the charts. I never questioned this relationship for a minute, and that's actually why it makes me sad when he turns out to be an asshole. Yeah.
But that's sometimes the best stories, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But that's what is great about this movie is like the title is Widows, and honestly, everyone in this movie loses something. Everyone loses something, and you know, people never really think about the widows. And Nathan said to her face, "I was like, nobody gives a fuck about the fucking widow because, like, at the end of the day, like, okay, but like, there's nothing worse than being the recipient of grief, you know, like to be the one left behind with everything that you thought you may have known about somebody, to be left with the memories of somebody, to be left with the smell, like this woman and like Veronica lost both of the men in her lives, like it's just, you know, so I don't know, it was really something interesting to watch the way that you watch every character in a way lose, like everyone loses something in a way. And you also have to figure out who you're rooting for in the end, because you're like, wait, do I really root for this person? Because like, I don't know, and you just, you know. But one of my favorite parts of this movie is when y'all are putting all, I don't even know what it is in these Tupperware. Man, before we were on this table, she was like, look, this is how much it is to carry this. Okay, run this way. Okay, now put it. And I was like, but to watch all of you like show up and be like, we're gonna do this. Like, we have to do this. And it was just so, I don't know, like I remember sitting on the edge of my seat watching the movie. I had a different experience because I got to watch it alone because, you know, I was like, I don't want to scream and stand up in this movie, be pointing at the movie, which I did when I watched it alone. You know? But it was just something so amazing that I thought about like a 12-year-old me or a 10-year-old me who never would have saw anything like that. Like I never would have seen an amazing black actress say, because they don't think we have the balls to do it. I was like, yeah! Like, get him! Like, it was just, I don't know. It was just something that, I don't know. It really was just, and I learned from each and every one of you. Like, I mean, all four of you, Cynthia, Erivo, Elizabeth Debicki, like, I mean, the four of them, it was just unbelievable to watch, especially you, Michelle. Like, can I take a moment?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, let's go about it. Let's talk about it. I mean, the world is really not ready to see you, and I know it's every time I hear you talk about it, I'm like, she's right. We are used to seeing her the one, like, grabbing her on this, kicking the doors down, doing this, blowing shit up, going and like having the best last line, knocking a person's face off. But when you get those keys and you open that shop again with your children running around, and you still realize that, yeah, you got it back, but your man is still not here. You do this thing, Michelle. I don't mean to scream at you. But I mean, you are one of the dopest, and what you do, like the subtleties of what you do. I mean, you still a hard ass, and I rock with you all the time. But I mean, like, you have no idea, like, your element, like, what you, like, I mean, it was really, really, really awe-inspiring, and like, I value you too. So,
Thank you.
I had to say that. I'm sorry I took all the time. Man. That's good.
Actually, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Linda goes to the widower. And it's, yeah. And it's like something that, like, I think a lot of maybe writers and directors would say, like, we don't actually need this scene because it doesn't technically further the plot, but it's such a beautiful moment and like bizarre. And I'm kind of like reading for a sequel where you get together.
I wanted something to happen. I was like, well, what's going to happen? Wait a minute.
No, that was the hardest scene for me.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I had an acting coach for the first time in like, what, since Girl Fight? To do that?
Just for that scene?
Just for that. Because, you know, I've spent most of my life living in my masculine side, which is very confident, by the way. No problems in that department, let me tell you. I mean, if I had one, it'd be swinging. Yeah. So, but, you know, the hardest thing is to go to that place where I saw my mother suffer as a kid, you know, having to raise 3 children on her own. 2 twin brothers who were always fighting. When they became men, it was hard to manage that, you know, by yourself when dad's no longer around. And, you know, to see her suffer, a person who opens her heart and loves unconditionally and has always been good and has always done the right thing. She was the Eve in the Bible. And I'm like, that bitch. No, I didn't respect her. And I'm like, Michelle, McQueen is coming up to you and he's asking you, in a sense, to find the respect you have for your mother. And that's why it was so hard for me to do this scene. Because I hate being taken advantage of. I fought my whole life not to be taken advantage of. I'll die not to be taken advantage of. I will die in the name of that. You know what I mean? Fighting, like tooth and nail. You know, so to be that person who sacrifices everything, like the great mother, for unconditional love, like that to me is the true power of femininity. And it's something that I am slowly discovering in myself, but it's so fucking hard. To be the bigger person. It's so hard to know that you're gonna get stomped on and do it anyway because you know what's right. And it's just like, oh. I'm like, damn. So that's why that scene was hard, because that scene was like an expression of all of the things that were bubbling up inside of her. And her kind of like having this memory of why she did it. And here's a perfect stranger.
Yeah.
And finally she's letting it all out in front of a perfect stranger. It was just daunting to me.
Yeah. I want to remind everyone that this movie hits theaters in November, but please do spread the word because I can't wait to see it again.
Yeah,